Greetings of the day, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Law Society podcast brought to you by CDPP. Before we begin, a brief intro to CDPP. The Center for Development Policy and Practice is an independent research institution which focuses on the economic and public policy issues, especially those impacting marginalized and the vulnerable communities. The Center for Law, Economics and Society, or CLES, is a CDPP initiative dedicated to exploring and understanding the evolving landscape in India. Today's podcast episode will focus on justice beyond punishment with Professor Vijay Raghavan on criminal justice and social work. Our guest today is Professor Vijay Raghavan, as mentioned. He is a senior research faculty member at the Center for Criminology and Justice at the Tata Institute of Social Sciences, Bombay. He has worked extensively on legal rights and rehabilitation of undertrials, prisoners, and survivors of trafficking through Prayas, a field action project that he has been part of since 1990. Professor Raghavan has also trained police, prisoners, and judicial officers across India on issues like gender, human rights, and prisoners' rights. With decades of experience in both research and practice, he offers a grounded and critical view of India's criminal justice system. Hello, sir. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today. Sir, would you like to add anything to your introduction?
Yeah, hello. Thank you for inviting me for this podcast. The only thing I want to add is that apart from practice and research, my main job is to teach, which I think you missed out. I am a professor in the Center for Criminology and Justice in the School of Social Work at TISS, and our main work is to teach students, master students, and now we've also started a bachelor's student course in social work, program in social work. So we teach bachelor's and master's degree students in social work with different specializations. One of the specializations is called Criminology and Justice, which is offered at the master's level. And I am attached to the Center for Criminology and Justice within the School of Social Work, focusing on this area. We, of course, also have PhD students who are working in different aspects within social work. And my PhD students are broadly focusing on issues relating to criminal justice and rehabilitation of persons who get processed by the criminal justice system. So that's the only thing I wanted to add. That the
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Somebody might mistake that I'm just a researcher.
Yeah, no worries, sir. Thank you so much for adding to your bio as well. So, sir, we would like to begin by understanding the Prayas initiative and what kind of work did it do with people in the criminal justice system?
So, Prayas is a field action project of the Center for Criminology and Justice in the School of Social Work, Tata Institute of Social Sciences. What is a field action project? TISS has this unique, area of work where faculty members are engaged in direct intervention in the field. Typically, if you see in any university, you have faculty members who teach, they do sometimes they do trainings, and they do research, and they publish. This is what a higher education level faculty, professors, or whatever they might call them, teachers are supposed to do. But TISS was born in certain unique circumstances. It was started in 1936 as the Sir Dorabji Tata Graduate School of Social Work. And this was an outcome of the vision of two people, an American missionary who was settled in India at that time in Mumbai called Clifford Manshatt, and Sir Dorabji Tata, who was from the House of Tatas. And these two people felt in pre-independence India that soon, when India gets independence, you are going to need people working for the welfare of people, especially in the area of labor welfare. And that is how they started this idea of starting a graduate school to train and educate social workers. So that's how this TISS was started. And it was in fact started in two small rooms in a community-based NGO in Mumbai Central called Nagpada Neighborhood House. And from there, it has grown into such a large, big institution, which is now fully funded by the government of India. as a centrally funded deemed university. Now, when TISS was started, and since we were offering mainly and only at that time social work degree, in social work curriculum, field work is an essential component of the curriculum. So it is one of the courses where it's not enough to just have classes going on for students. You also have to send them to the field so that they learn what they practice what they're learning in the classroom. And
Yes.
there is a to and fro between field and theory, what we
Mhm.
call as praxis. Now, at that point of time, there were very few organizations working in and around Mumbai where students could be placed for field work. So largely they were being placed in government institutions, children's homes and women's institutions, etc., beggars' homes, things like that. So the institute authorities at that time actively encouraged our faculty members to start what are known as field action projects, where students could be placed directly in the field through these projects. And these projects were long term projects. They also served the role of demonstrating to the government and society what kind of social work initiatives are required in post independence India. The first field action project that was started is still going on as a field action project, which is called Child Guidance Clinic. It was perhaps the first child guidance clinic set up in India, and it was attached to the Wadia Children's Hospital in Parel to look at behavior issues and problems of children with a psychosocial approach, where social workers would engage with these children and and try to identify what was the source of the problem and how does one try and address those problems. That field action project has been renamed, and it's now called Muskan, which works with children and adolescents in the institute. I mean, not in the institute, but the project is located within the institute. It works in the community at different locations. So since then, they have had many, many, many field action projects where they are trying to demonstrate the requirement of social workers within certain settings. What is it that social workers can bring to the table? That is the main objective of these field action projects, and also to provide a space for students of the institute to practice what they're learning in the classroom. So it serves the dual purpose. Plus, through these projects, there is a lot of generation of indigenous knowledge, uh, and that is done through research and documentation within the project, and that creates a knowledge base for social work literature within the country. And finally, many of these projects have led to policy level changes. So, for example, you may have heard of Childline 1098, what used to be, now it is
Yes, sir.
merged with the government helpline
Yeah.
number. It was started as a field action project of TISS when one of the faculty members of the institute at that point of time, someone called Jeru Bilimoria, she came up with this idea of identifying NGOs to come together to support children in vulnerable circumstances and starting a helpline. In fact, that number 1098 was also given by the children. When she was talking to the street children, they said, "Thus now art." So that's a very easy number to remember. So that's how that 1098 number was brought in. You may know about family court counselors.
Yes.
Yeah, under the Family Courts Act. Now, this was again started as a demonstration project by TISS, in the Bombay High Court. A reconciliation cell was started. That led to finally the setting up of the family courts counselors. We have a project called Special Cell for Women, under which there are social workers appointed within the police settings to to try and provide social legal and rehabilitative support to women victims of violence.
Right.
Now, this project has spread across more than 14 states, if I'm not mistaken. And there are about 600 special cells in the country today, most of which is funded either by government or funded by international donor with some amount of that kind of support. So now we need to look at Prayas in that context. So when we say field action project, Prayas is also a field action project. It was started by one of our faculty members, Dr. Sanobar Sani. She was a faculty in the what was then the Department of Criminology and Correctional Administration. Now that same center is now called Center for Criminology and Justice. Now, the Department of Criminology and Correctional Administration, she was a faculty member there, and she came up with the idea of placing her students in prison for field work to learn what can be done, what can social workers do to work with under trial prisoners. And soon she started placing students in police stations. She started placing students in courts, etc. And that gave the idea that there is scope to have social workers in the criminal justice system. And so in 1990, she started this field action project, which was later named as Prayas. And I was the first social worker to be appointed in that project. I was her student, and I had done my field work in Arthur Road Jail in the year 1988-89. And at the end of that period, when she offered me a position within that project, which was just going to start, asking whether you would like to work in this project, and I said yes, and that's how we started Prayas. And what is Prayas? Prayas works in the criminal justice system to demonstrate the requirement of social, legal, and rehabilitative services for people who come in contact with the criminal justice system. This includes people arrested. So, there could be people who are arrested and in lockups. We don't get access to people in lockups, so we don't work there. But it could include that if access was given. We work with under trials once they are arrested and brought into the judicial custody, that is prison custody. We work with convicted prisoners once they are convicted of having, committed an offense. We work with families of prisoners who come in contact with the prisoners because they want to meet their family members, or family members have lost touch with their relatives in prison, and we try and make contact with those families. We work with children inside prison living with their mothers who are below 6 years of age. There's under the law, it is allowed to have children of women coming inside the prison if there is no other caretaker. We work with children left outside of women prisoners who are growing up under various difficult circumstances. Then we have extended our work to include people who are being processed in the criminal courts. So there are a lot of people who are in need of legal aid who come in contact with the criminal justice system. We work with women rescued from commercial sexual exploitation and are brought before a magistrate under the Immoral Trafficking Prevention Act. And then they are to be kept in the government protective home till their case is decided whether what kind of social, legal, and rehabilitation services they need. So we work in these protective homes. We work with children in conflict with law, which is children who are being kept in the observation home. And we also work with post-release situations of all these populations, whether it is prisoners or children of prisoners or women rescued from commercial sex or children in conflict with law. So our location is inside custody and outside custody. So inside custody, it is with a range of people who are being processed by the justice system. And outside custody are people who have been released from custody, discharged from custody, but now they have probably very little support to reconstruct their lives. And that is where social workers come in to try and see how social workers can help in getting these people back on their feet. So the byline of Prayas is social work in criminal justice, right? And we've been working with this objective now for more than 35 years. It was started in 1990. We're currently working in 2 states, Gujarat and Maharashtra, and we are working in about 12 prisons and 3 shelter homes for women and 1 children's home for children in conflict with law. And we have 3 to 4 community-based rehabilitation centers where our clients in social work jargon, people with whom we work are called as clients. So where our clients come for any kind of support that they require. One last thing is, through Prayas, we've also done a lot of research and documentation of issues that we have worked with in the field and produced literature which is required in an indigenous context. And also we are responsible, we have been able, successful in bringing about a lot of policy level changes
Hmm.
with regard to these vulnerable groups coming in contact with the criminal justice system.
Thank you so much, sir. Sir, you mentioned that you have worked, like Prayas as a initiative has worked inside and out of the whole criminal justice system. So, sir, what are the biggest challenges that you have faced in getting the legal or the social support?
Well, being a project of TISS, which is a recognized, credible institution, for us, getting permission to work inside these institutions has not been such a problem. Because TISS has a long history of working with the government. And our department, Criminology and Correctional Administration, what it was earlier, and now the Center for Criminology and Justice, has had a very long history of having worked with the government. In fact, the the correctional policies of the country was laid down post independence, in which TISS has played an important role. I don't want to get into the details because that will take away from the time that we have set. But just to tell you that there has been a very important collaboration between government and TISS over the years, particularly in the area of social welfare, juvenile justice, and prison populations and custodial populations. So because of that, permission was not an issue. That's number one. Number two, the method in which we work. Our social workers are trained and are oriented to work and engage with the system and not in confrontation with the system. We are not there to only find fault with what is wrong with the system, but we are also there to look at what can be done to deal with those and address those problems. And because of that, the system has always respected our initiative. Thirdly, we have always taken a policy that whatever the problems inside the system, we are not here to go and talk about it in the media and in the press and things of that sort, but we are there to work within the higher ups of the system and the department to see what can be done to address those issues and problems. And this is done primarily by interacting with the higher levels of the judiciary, the higher levels of the administration and the legal aid authorities, to constantly work with them, to constantly be, in collaborative efforts and initiatives with them, to organize workshops and seminars where multiple stakeholders come together and they discuss and try and deal with those issues, etc., and to do research and present those findings to the authorities to see what more can be done. It's a very slow process. It's a slow process of change, but our experience has shown that change does come about. That being the methodology of our work, the background of being a TISS project, the fact that these are social workers working in the project with a particular kind of training and orientation has not made it very difficult to us at a larger level. But definitely at the local level, at a day-to-day level, there are always issues where a particular officer may not be interested in the work that you're doing or may find it a problem with what you're doing and might create hurdles for you in the work. And that is a daily struggle of many of our social workers who work in the field. That is one kind of challenge. But the second challenge has been, how do you work in a system where rehabilitation as a goal is not well recognized? Because the system, while it is supposed to be rehabilitative, rehabilitation is one of the prime objectives of the criminal justice system. When you enter the prison walls, you will see in bold letters, it is written at the gate inside, Sudharanya Ani Punarvasan. In Marathi, it means reformation and rehabilitation. And this is also the byline of the prison department. All prison departments are correctional departments. They are meant to correct and rehabilitate people who have gone off the track. If that is the objective, where is the structure and mechanism to implement that objective? And for that, you need social workers, you need counselors, which is currently not there in the system. What you have is security people, people who are, I won't say completely security people, but one is the guarding staff, which is there, which is required. But you also have these officers who are jailers, who are not from the police. This one misconception people have, that police and prison are the same. Police and prison are not the same. Prison department is separate from the police department. Police's job is to arrest, investigate, and then leave it to the prosecution to prove or not prove the charges. Prison is there once the person has been arrested and brought under judicial custody, or once the conviction has taken place. So they are also trained in corrections and rehabilitation, but they are not enough in number. They are short staffed, and also because their primary function is security, willy-nilly, that's how it ends up. And therefore, their focus on reformation and rehabilitation is not there. So we have been trying to say that you need social workers in the form of welfare officers, in the form of rehabilitation officers. Only then the objective of reformation and rehabilitation will be completed. So that is a gap, which is a challenge for us, because there are not enough people to focus on this aspect. And our social workers are too few in number to be able to cater to the larger population that is required. So sometimes there is that clash that might take place between the system, people in the system, not I won't say system, people in the system, and our team, where they may not see this work as so important, because for them something else is more important. So that's another challenge. The third and another significant challenge would be the fact that our system is overflowing and overcrowded. And that is a problem that everybody in that system is facing. We have over 130% occupancy in our prisons. And there are certain prisons and institutions where the occupancy is double, triple, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times the official capacity. And there is huge amount of vacancies in the system. If you want to know more about this, you should go through the India Justice Report.
Yes, the 2025
report, and previous reports also.
Yes.
And Prayas is a part of this collective of organizations which has come together to produce the India Justice Report,
Yes.
which is based on government data, official government data, and analysis of the data to show where are the gaps in the system. So there are these capacity gaps, capacity deficits within the system. All these are challenges which ultimately impinge on our day-to-day work. And the last but not least important is that the total absence of rehabilitation programs and services for people once they come out of the custody. So there is at least some semblance of activities, programs, etc. Like for example, convicted prisoners are sent to vocational training, units within the prison. There are industries like carpet making and tailoring and weaving and things like that, where they're also earning wages through that process. There are open prisons where convicted prisoners can go and stay there without boundary walls. So there are some initiatives happening inside custody, but the moment a person comes out, there is no structure in place. There are no personnel in place to attend to that person's problems. We don't know what happens to them. Most of them, we don't know what happens to them once they go out. There is no data about them. There are no studies, very few studies about the situation of people once they go out. So that is a very big gap which we are trying to address by just demonstrating that if social workers were available in the community for people who come out from custody, what kind of services will they require to get back into the mainstream? So these are some of the challenges.
Thank you so much, sir. And yes, definitely the India Justice Report, since its inception, has been one of the pioneering research work when it comes to finding out more about not just the prison system, but the judiciary, the legal aid,
And
definitely, and the police as well. So when we saw that, there are certain districts that exceeds to 135%, which is based out of states like UP and Bihar, it is concerning and something to look into for sure.